Hey guys, how you doing today? Hope you guys are doing well on this Throwdown Thursday. Yeah, I just made that up. So anyways, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys' day is going well. And wanted to come over here and make a video for you guys. So anyways, was thinking of a story today. And before I get into that story, had an interesting day at work. I was asked to order an item that comes in like every few times throughout the year, which is called like a standing order for ordering this specific item. And what happened was one of the areas that I supply, they were actually running low on this particular item and actually were going to need an additional amount. So I was like, oh, okay, well, just go ahead and order it. How soon do you need it? So that basically saying like they needed it sooner rather than later, so as soon as they can. And I was like, okay, well, just let me know how many and I'll put the order in. So I put the order in yesterday to have it, a rush order as they call it. So, I'm thinking like, okay, since it was later in the afternoon, should get it in by Friday. So put in the order, the request, and overnight orders have to be approved. So I put it in, sent an email, come in today, it's approved, cool. I emailed the lady who asked for the item, and I was like, all right, cool. Not long after that, probably within like a minute or two, I get a notification basically letting me know that because this is a standing ordered item, you can't overnight it. You can't put a rush order on it. So I was like, oh, okay. So what do I need to do then? Because they need this item. Well, figured out there was a way to get it in and get it ordered. And so I leaned on a colleague and I asked, hey, what do I need to do for this? Well, come to find out, I did the process right, which should have worked. However, there was something in the system where it actually ordered it through a different company instead of the main company that it comes from. So anyways, worked out the details, got another rush put in, and so now we're just a waiting game. So we'll see what happens. Keep it posted on that. So anyways, all right, story for today. I was thinking about, I had went on a trip. This was probably 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. My daughter was graduating college. And so I was gonna go watch her, watch her graduate. So I was gonna fly down to Tennessee and from Washington all the way to Tennessee. So my plan was fly down there, rent a car. I had never rented a car before, so this is my first time doing this. Rent a car, get a hotel, boom, go to the graduation, spend time with my daughter, and then come back. So when I tell you it was a living nightmare the first day going there, it literally was a nightmare. You're probably like, well, how was it a nightmare? I'm gonna tell you. So get there, flight leaves on time, and get to the airport, and I'm like, cool. Daylight, I left early in the morning, got there early afternoon. And this was actually in not December of this past year, but the year before. So yeah, a couple years ago. Anyways, I get there to the airport, get off the plane, go to get my luggage. I'm at the little carousel. I'm waiting some more. I'm like, oh, everybody else is getting their luggage, and then I'm looking at some of the other people who were on the same flight as me, and it sounded like they're just behind. The workers are behind, so they're slowly getting the people's luggage loaded up on the plane or loaded up on the carousel or whatever, the belt. So I was like, okay, no problem. Just wait a little bit, you know. Got plenty of time. There's still daylight out, so I'm like, yeah, it's cool, cool. Waiting. And I noticed everybody started getting their luggage. And I'm like, well, where is mine? You know, like I'm looking, I'm like, you know, as some people have similar looking suitcases or whatever, right? I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, no, that's not it either. And then at one moment, I thought maybe somebody might have grabbed mine by accident. And I was like, nah. So then, you know, after a while, you know, when there's no more luggage on the belt, you know, it's just bare. You might be like one or two things on there. So I'm like, well, this is... So then I see a family and they're like, where's our stuff? They're looking for their luggage as well. So over not far from where the belt was, there was a, I think it was like a claims center or whatever. So for the different airlines. So I ended up going over there and I said, yeah, I said my luggage didn't show up on the belt. He's like, oh. So the guy I talked to, he was like, oh, okay, well, you know, give me your info or whatever. So I gave him my information and he's like, okay. He's like, well, hold on. He says, do any of these look like might be your luggage? So I look and I'm like, almost. And I'm like, no. I said, no, none of those are mine. He's like, okay, well, he said, let me see. He says, where were you flying from? And I tell him, and he's like, okay. Finds out my luggage went to Georgia. He says, oh, yeah, it looks like your luggage got sent to Georgia. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Georgia? Never been. Heard it's a great place, but I've never been there. Maybe someday. But anyways, I was like, how? I was like, well, and this was definitely my fault, but when you go to the airport, frequent travelers know this, you have little stickers that they'll put on there, like, well, everybody puts their own stuff on there nowadays, you know, at the kiosk. But take everything off from your previous flight. I still had a couple of strips on there from the last time I had flown, and so that's where my luggage ended up going. I don't know how, but it did. So, needless to say, I just flew cross country. I had a little bit of luggage, thank goodness, in my backpack. But other than that, I had nothing. And I was like, great. So he's like, well, we can get it to you, you know, let me get your information and we can, you know, we'll have it flown back. We'll update you, let you know. I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, well, dang, okay. So I go down to go get my rental car. I'm in there, oh, cool. Go in there. Now, you know, I'm thinking it's just like in the commercials and everything. You go in, get your information and all that. Hey, okay, here's your car. Boom, you know? Nothing like that. So it was kind of like I guess you would say somewhat of a rude awakening. Anyways, I get in there and there's somewhat of a line and I didn't really gauge the room that much, but in a way, you know, when you can tell some people have been kind of waiting for a while, that's just what was going on. And so I'm not going to name the rental service that I used, but I will just say it'll be the last time I used them. So anyways, I seen some other people coming in, you know, from their flights and, you know, they're checking in and they're getting their car quickly. So it's my turn to finally step in line and I give my information. I'm like, okay, yeah. You know, all right, all right. So then proceeds to tell me that there's an extra fee to pay. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean an extra fee? I'm like, yeah, there's a, you know, fee. I guess it's like to like reserve the vehicle or like cover it, somewhat coverage or something. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said, I already paid something, you know, to get the rental car. So why do I need to pay an additional extra amount? And they're like, oh, it's just, you know, as a precaution just in case something happens. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, well, it didn't say nothing about that. Well, of course, then people tell you, did you read the fine print and all that? No, I probably did, most likely did not. So anyways, lesson learned, read the fine print, read it all. So I was like, wait a minute, man. And I'm like, you know, sometimes when you plan for a trip, you have a certain amount of money that you're going to take with you. Well, this was pretty much was going to tap me out. And I was like, so the lady that I was dating at the time, I actually had to call her. And I said, hey, I said, the crazy part was this. Just was going to get ready to pay my rent. And so I'd use Cash App. Well, I already proved, like, when somebody sees you on something on Cash App or whatever, you just say, okay. And so you can either have it then, there's a fee, or you can just say, you know, normal business time for next week. So I had already accepted that it was going to come next week. No biggie. So I'm thinking, like, well, maybe I can go ahead and just reverse it. Now, if there's a way to reverse it, I didn't know it at the time, couldn't figure it out. There wasn't. So I literally had to ask for an additional amount. And of course I had, would pay her back. So ended up doing that, go back, and I have to wait to get my rental car now. Because now there's additional people. Well, they were shorthanded also. And by this time, it's dark now. It's nighttime. I'm tired. I done flown from the West Coast all the way over to the Midwest. I'm tired. Tired, hungry, grumpy, you name it, I was that. And so I'm like, okay, well, how long is it going to take? Oh, we're really trying. We'll get you in, as soon as we can. 3 hours later, I'm pretty sure it was about 3 hours later. I'm not even kidding. Finally got paid, because I had to go all the way to the back of the line pretty much. So anyways, finally paid the additional amount. They're like, okay, go ahead and take you upstairs, go get my car. My brain was not working by then, There's a little checklist you're supposed to go by. I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't even check anything, And of course, like, some of these cars are like new. I wasn't used to the, new features on the car, but I figured it out, to pull out and leave anyway. Now it's dark. I've mentioned this before. I don't see very well at night because I'm blind in one eye legally. So of course at nighttime, unless I know where I'm going, I can see pretty well. Otherwise, not so much. So I pull out, not knowing where I'm going. I know I need to get to the hotel. And so I put in the GPS coordinate. Well, I drove around for a little while, thinking I could just find it on my own, and that wasn't the case. So I eventually pulled over, put the information in my GPS. Luckily, it hooked up to my phone, so it synced with my phone. So made the screen bigger, so that was a plus as well. And let me know I actually wasn't that far away. I think I was like 10 minutes away from the hotel. So you think that stops there, right? No. I finally get to the hotel. I'm like, cool. Well, what I noticed is there's a gate for, residents are staying there. Well, I couldn't get in. For whatever reason, the gate wouldn't work. So I'm like, okay, well, where am I supposed to park? Well, I seen all these cars like literally in the front of the hotel, like a little circle drive, just parked all over the place. So I was like, well, I'll just park and then go check in. So I go in and I find out their power had got knocked out earlier. So their system is down, which means I couldn't electronically check into the hotel. I literally had to show proof that I had already booked my stay. The guy was like, do you have a reservation? I was like, well, yeah, I do. He's like, okay, can I see it? I was like, sure. I show him. He's like, all right, well, for now, since our system's down, you have to fill this out first, the waiver or whatever. Fill it out. And then I was like, well, hey, where do I park? He's like, oh, well, you just park anywhere since the gate's closed, it's not working, so you can park anywhere you want. I was like, cool. There was some spaces in the front, so I parked over there. Got up to my room, I crashed out. I was so tired. I was exhausted. My body was run down. And the caveat to this whole thing is I got sick the next day. I kid you not. Got sick the next day, and it's literally stayed with me for probably like a good 2 to 3 weeks before whatever it was that I ended up getting cleared out of my system. So like my immune system was like completely run down from that long. From the flight, I think just in itself, and then literally the long layover at the airport, unintended. And so I did get my luggage the next day, but as far as like energy wise, I just didn't have it. I felt miserable. The bright side was I got to see my daughter graduate and walk. And then the day before I flew back out, me and her had dinner together, and had spent some quality time together. So that was a plus. So yeah. So the trip ended well, and yeah, another story. But the hotel stay, save that for another time. But yeah. Anyways, I just want to share that with you guys. Did I have a topic? Not necessarily, but I thought it was a pretty funny story I wanted to share with you guys. Just an experience on the first time renting a car. So yeah, I guess that'll be the topic. First time renting a car, had no clue about what you're supposed to do, this and that. So hey, lesson learned, and read the fine print, guys. So until the next video, peace.